Story 1. The events of this story took place in 2015 and some of 2016. It is all still very fresh and pains me a great deal, but I really hope telling you, whoever you are out there, my story, that it will help me move forward and enable me to get on with my life once and for all. I met my fiancée Susie on mycupid.com. It was the dream catch for anyone, online or not. Her name was Susie, a beautiful blonde, 5 years younger than me, into sports, very athletic, and the most outgoing and fun personality you would ever want in a partner. I hit the lottery, and from the very first moment we met, I was sure we would go on, have a future together, and there would be no looking back for either of us. Our conversation started online, and then we met in person. It was probably one of the first cases in the history of online dating where someone was way more attractive than their photos. We hit it off instantly. This is kind of personal, but we made love together after our first date. It was the most natural thing in the world. I know it sounds kind of cheesy, but we knew even then what we had. We continued dating. Susie moved in with me after 3 months, and we got engaged after 6 months. I took her to Paris for a week-long getaway and proposed to her there. She said yes and cried tears of joy. I wish I could bottle that moment. Pure happiness. No worries or sorrow. Just two young people, madly in love with each other. Susie worked as head of sales for a very large company. She would travel all around the country for work. She would be away for long periods at a time, which can destroy a lot of relationships, but not ours. I quite liked the time alone and space, and when we did see each other, well, it was pure fireworks. She kept her stuff at my place, and I never really knew when she would come back. Sometimes she would be gone for a week, sometimes a month. She would just show up. Susie was very sporadic like that, but I liked it. Every bit of it. It was fun, to be honest. Around a month after getting engaged, some extremely strange things started happening to me. It all started one morning. I arrived at work, grabbed some coffee as usual, and opened my email. My inbox was full of emails from random Gmail and Yahoo accounts, telling me to commit suicide, telling me to go and die, and some emails told me in very specific details how I was going to be killed and to watch my back at all times. The emails came from all sorts of different accounts, random names, always different ones, like someone was making fake accounts all day long. There was one name that did keep popping up though, the name of a person I had never heard of before, Caroline. The messages often referred to this Caroline person, saying I should stop calling her, and many other things. As I did not know any Caroline, I assumed that this was all one big case of mistaken identity, and that I had somehow managed to find myself in the middle of it. I deleted all 42 emails, and decided to just ignore it, as best as I could. Shortly after this incident, not only did more emails from unknown people keep arriving in my inbox, but this brown Volvo. I began seeing this brown Volvo everywhere I went. I would see it at work. I would walk out of the grocery store, and there it was. I even saw it a couple of times, driving slowly down my block, late at night. It would also park up under a tree, just a little bit down the street. One day at work, I was sat at my desk. When I looked out and saw it, the brown Volvo sat in my work car park. I got up from my desk, and I wanted to confront whoever this person was, as they had been following me for over a week at this point. When I got out to the car park and approached the brown Volvo, it quickly started up its engine and drove off. I asked security to check the camera. We could see it was a man sat in the car, but not very clear details about anything else. He had also covered his license plates before driving in. He knew what he was doing, but I had no idea why he was doing it. The emails kept coming. The brown Volvo made the odd cameo appearance, and then things got even stranger from here. I started getting photos pushed through my letterbox. Photos that looked like they had been taken from a family photo album. 2 kids, a boy and a girl, pictures of them at a fairground, sat on the rides. The weirdest thing was that I had never seen these kids before in my life. One of the weirdest photos of all of them was a photo that looked like it had been thrown into a fire and quickly taken out. It was a photo of the 2 kids, with a man I'm guessing their father stood behind them, and a cut and burned out piece of the photo missing. I was now being followed, sent death threats on a daily basis, and being sent strange photos of people I had never seen or met in my life. I messaged Susie about what was happening to me. She seemed really shocked, but she was away on business in another state and extremely busy, too busy to come home. I want to tell you that it all ended here and that things went back to normal, but I can't because they didn't. The mental abuse took an even weirder twist. I turned on my phone one morning to find 17 voice messages, each message very different to the other. 2 children screaming, "Hey Daddy, when are you coming home?" down the phone and laughing. I phoned the number back. It was a payphone in a different state on the other side of the country. Why were they phoning me? It was all too much to just be a coincidence. The next thing that happened was I started getting calls from hotels, random hotels all over the country, reminding me about my reservation and asking me at what time was I going to be checking in. But not just when I myself would be checking in. Me, Caroline, and our 2 children. The phone would ring non-stop, hundreds of reservations that I did not make. I turned my phone off and I stopped checking my mail. It was all way too much. I was starting to lose the tight grip I once had on my own sanity. One morning around 8 a.m, I woke up and I could hear a car outside my house. I could hear the engine running. When I looked out of my window, I nearly had a panic attack when I saw it. The very thing I had been having nightmares over for the past few weeks. The brown Volvo, with a man sat inside it, parked right in front of my house. I rushed downstairs. I was about to get my house phone to call the police when there was a loud knock at my door. I didn't know what to do. He knew I was home. He knocked even louder. I asked who it was. He didn't respond. "Who is it?" I asked again. When I looked back through the peephole, there was nobody there, but the man was still outside my house. I could see him. He was now peering through my living room window. Our eyes met. "I just want to talk to you," he said, and he held his hands in the air in a peaceful way. I reluctantly opened the door. The man walked into my living room. He already knew my name, but I had guessed that much already. Before he said anything, he fixed his eyes on a picture of me and Susie in Paris together. He walked over to it and picked it up, and the next thing he said made all the hairs stand up on the back of my neck. "I see you know Caroline," he said. I asked him what he was talking about. He looked at me and said, "I know her too. She is my wife." The man then explained to me that Susie, my fiancée, was not really Susie at all. Her real name was Caroline. She was happily married, or at least pretended to be, had 2 children, and lived across the country. She didn't really have a job at all, but she did have a husband and 3 fiancés. She liked to meet men online and get holidays and money out of them, and live her quadruple life out to the fullest. He had tracked his wife's steps, and they led to me, and the other 2 men, all in different parts of the country. The man apologized to me. He told me that when he found out about what his wife was doing, he took it out on me. All the insane mental warfare, and all of the tricks, photos, and random visits were all him. He had flown across the country numerous times, just to abuse me. He knew he had taken it too far. Believe it or not, I actually forgave him. It took me a while, but I did forgive him, and we are friends now. And a few weeks ago, we all met up together for a drink, me and the other 3 men that she had involved in her madness, to share stories and pour our hearts out about our dear Caroline, or should I say Susie, Angelica, and Nicole. Story 2. This story is told from the perspective of a female. I'm a 24-year-old female from New York. I love online dating because it took me away from having to go out to clubs and shout over loud music, or spend the night being harassed by desperate drunks while I tried to find my Mr. Right, in a place where I really have no chance of finding him in the first place. I have met some great guys online and had some great dates, but this was not one of those. I had been talking to this guy on Tinder. He had super liked me. which I usually don't go for, but this guy was kind of good looking, 28, liked football, and loved animals, which is all good for me. We had been talking for weeks when we finally decided to go out on our first date. He had suggested meeting at his place and going out from there, but there was no way I was doing that. It was a public place or nothing. Those are my rules of the game. I always live by those rules when it comes to online dating. We met in this Italian restaurant. I arrived first and watched everyone that came through the front door of the restaurant. After a while, in walked my date, and of course, he looked nothing like his pictures. In his pictures, he looked 28. In real life, he looked like he was in his 40s, and he had aged extremely badly, and I mean really badly. The prick had used photos from like 15 years ago. He sat down and said hi. My first reaction was to get out of there, but I stuck around to be polite. And for anyone reading this, if this ever happens to you, do not stick around. They have lied to you. You have every right to get up and leave and say goodbye. Dinner conversation was not great either. He had practically nothing interesting to say. He asked me some questions about me and my parents and where they worked and things. It started off pretty generic. I ate as quickly as I could. He didn't though. He ate so slowly, slurping up spaghetti in front of me. I was already feeling uncomfortable, but then he started making every other sentence something sexual. Guess he thought that it would turn me on or something. It was some creepy shit. He started talking about underwear and what my favorite sexual positions were. You know, typical first date talk. Whenever I told him to stop saying sexual things, he would apologize, but then go straight back to it, and his stare became more and more intense over dinner. I told him I was going to the bathroom. I got my phone and I turned it on. I was about to text my best friend and let her know where I was. When I got to the other side of the restaurant, I looked back to see the guy intentionally throw his fork on the floor over to where my seat was. He then got down on his hands and knees as though he was going to pick up his fork, and as he did, he sniffed the base of my seat before picking up the fork and sitting back down. That was it. I am done. I am going home. I paid for the meal at the bar, double checking that he couldn't see me. I didn't want to leave him with the bill and give him more of a reason to come and find me later. I paid and bolted from the restaurant. When I got home, I had 29 messages on Tinder, aggressive messages calling me all sorts of names. Sadly, I had given him my WhatsApp number, so I had to block him on WhatsApp and delete him from Tinder. The next day, he began calling my phone. He called 30 or so times while I was at work. I blocked his number. At around midnight, I was laying in bed, and I got a call from a number I did not recognize. I answered. It was him, calling me on another number. I was expecting him to go crazy for ditching him, but what he said was far freakier than I could have imagined. He said, "Your mother is so beautiful, just like you. I can see her now, with her green sweater on. Would be horrible if anything bad happened to such a beautiful woman, wouldn't it? All because her slut of a daughter doesn't know how to behave. I'm watching her right now, through her window." I had foolishly told this man the night before my mum's name and where she worked, and that she worked nights. He hung up on me. I tried frantically phoning my mom, but she didn't answer. I phoned her office, and they said she was on a break. My heart began pounding, and I feared the worst. I got in my car and drove to my mum's work. Fortunately, when I arrived, she was okay. We talked to security, and the next day they checked the footage. My date from the night before had driven his car into the car park and sat there for over 4 hours. I never saw him or heard from him again after this. I was so stupid, telling that guy all of that information. My advice, be careful what you tell people. You never know when it can all come back to haunt you. Story 3. I met this woman online. It was only an online relationship, exclusively online. We never actually met in person. We met on an online forum where people who like to have cybersex meet up and have cybersex. If you don't know what that is where you have sex by typing. You write your fantasies and things. We cybersexed often, and also talked about life and general things. One day, when I opened my account, I was surprised to see she had sent me some nudes, some photos of her touching herself, and some other nice shots. They were all nice pictures, and she was really hot too. She asked me to return the favor, so I did. I sent her some naked pictures of me, doing some stuff. I am sure you can imagine what. But I made sure I blurred my face, just in case the photos ever got into the wrong hands. She loved the photos, just as much as I did hers, and we continued our online relationship for a few more months. After a few months, I had started seeing this woman from work, and I didn't feel right dating her and continuing this online relationship I was in. So I called it off with the cybersex woman, and when I did, boy, did she lose her goddamn mind. She told me to just see both of them at the same time, and that she didn't care if I was seeing someone else, but that under no circumstances would she ever accept me leaving her. I stood my ground and told her that this was it, and it was done and finalized. She blocked me, and I thought that would be the end of it. And yeah, you guessed it right. Nope. 2 months later, a friend asked me if I'd seen a video about me. I hadn't. He sent me the link, and I found my naked pictures all over these different porn sites. No big deal though, right? I blurred my face. But what she had done was she had put my full name and address in the description, so if anyone typed in my name in Google, it would come up. She even made a YouTube video with all my privates blurred, saying for full naked images, please click on the link in the description. And my full name was in the title of the YouTube video, and it was one of the first things that showed up on Google. She had destroyed me. It took months to get all the videos and blog posts taken down, and the police eventually used her IP address to track her down. And you want to know what they found? Behind this girl's IP address, when they went to arrest her, she was no girl at all. She was a 67-year-old man named Frank. That's right, I had been having cybersex with a 67-year-old man for over half a year. Please, be careful online. Thank you very much for watching. Remember to stay safe when dating online, not to give out too much personal information, and to always meet people in public, and to keep your wits about you. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you enjoyed the unique content, please leave a like, comment and share. It takes a lot more time to find stories that other people have not used. Your continued support makes it all worthwhile, so thank you so much for that. If you're new to this channel, then please subscribe for more real life horror.